The Barlett Steele Awards for Investigative Business Journalism in recent years has included dramatic international stories such as Fish from Slaves and Panama Papers. In this 11th year of the awards, we celebrate and honor newsrooms of various sizes whose outstanding local coverage raised powerful issues extending far beyond their own borders. Dangerous Doses, a 2-year investigation by reporters of the Chicago Tribune, received our Gold Award. Investigating hundreds of Chicago area pharmacies, it exposed the failure of the nation's pharmacies to adequately warn patients of potentially dangerous drug combinations.
So our project was on the dangers of prescription drug combinations. The idea that you can take one prescription drug that could be relatively harmless, take another that's relatively harmless, but if you take those two together, they could have a synergistic effect and cause you some harm.
We started out slow. We tested slow. We started out with maybe 10, 20 stores to just see if this was really something that was happening out there.
And we went in with 2 different prescriptions, with 2 drugs that taken together could be potentially harmful or even fatal, because we wanted to see if the pharmacies would warn us. And in 52% of the time, they did not warn us at all.
We wanted rock-solid science as well as rock-solid reporting altogether.
We had to really view the story as a research project, as a study, and have a very solid methodology.
But it was a major effort to not only coordinate the people and how many times you'd gone to each store and each brand, but also you had to figure out how many different types of medications to use and what medications were the right ones to test. And so we eventually got it done with the help of the entire newsroom, really.
We all knew that this was a major public health issue that wasn't being addressed. And we had an opportunity to go in and document this in a way that no one had done before and to fix it.
There are so many pharmacists who told us that it was just an assembly line where they'd have to fill an order and fill another order, and then they may only get 2 or 3 minutes to do an entire drug background check of what you're taking. What we did see was the governor came out and pushed for a new regulation that required pharmacists to counsel everybody when they get a new medication.
The major pharmacies in this country, Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, they all announced immediately that they were going to have significant safety changes. The experts told us it was the most widespread changes in this industry in a generation.
Sticking with the pig, A Tale of Loyalty and Loss by the Post-Courier of Charleston, South Carolina, received our Silver Award. The iconic Piggly Wiggly Carolina grocery chain was employee-owned, but the paper discovered that as the company was failing, senior executives personally carted away millions of dollars through complex financial transactions.
It was the largest franchisor of Piggly Wiggly stores in the nation with more than 100 stores. And the interesting thing about Piggly Wiggly Carolina was that it was employee-owned. It was more than a grocery store here. It was really an icon, part of the fabric of the community. So when it basically folded a few years ago, it really hit deep. I talked to about more than 50 employees in depth for this story. And a lot of these employees were very hesitant to talk about what happened because they were still looking for jobs. And one thing that really struck me was not so much the grief of losing a job, but it was a sense of betrayal. The owners of the company essentially carted away millions of dollars as this company went under. Employees today talk about the story. They say, wow, thank you for doing the story. Our story was heard. Our voices were heard. And for me, that's the most important result.
Lowering the Bar by MedPage Today received the Bronze Award. Its sophisticated investigation revealed how non-life-threatening conditions, once considered everyday ailments, have been named medical disorders by drug companies. While this practice attracts a fortune for those companies, it has also sent tens of thousands of people to emergency rooms.
Lowering the Bar was a 9-month project by reporters at MedPage Today and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, who investigated an issue known as medicalization. That's how drug companies help create medical disorders out of what used to be considered conditions of everyday life. 20 years ago, adult ADHD, overactive bladder, binge eating disorder, and even low T were not a part of mainstream medicine. Today they are, and all of them can be treated with dangerous and expensive drugs that often don't work very well. For this project, MedPage Today reporters Christina Fiore and Matt Wynn and I focused on 8 of the conditions, which as a group are purported to affect 180 million Americans. That's 77% of adults. One of the biggest challenges for this project was finding data that showed the harms of medicalization. And maybe the best example of that is adult ADHD, which is often treated with dangerous amphetamines. To do that, we drew from several little-known government databases. Those showed that emergency room visits involving the drugs had nearly quadrupled over a 7-year period, that morgues in Florida had seen a 450% increase in deaths over 6 years. I think the biggest result of our reporting was an increased awareness among patients and doctors that these conditions are largely invented and that they don't need to be treated with dangerous and expensive drugs.
This year's Barlett Steele Awards reaffirm the fact that despite media industry disruption, fearless news organizations of all sizes, types, and locations still take seriously their responsibility to investigate critical money and health issues that can harm the public.